Oh, hey everybody, thanks for joining me tonight for the second show. We're glad to have you back for the second show tonight. We have an awesome show tonight and I've got a fabulous guest. I have Don Baker with me, who is an executive producer and a screenwriter, and he has written a screenplay called The Circle. And tonight, he is my guest, and he's going to talk about this project that they have going, and they're hoping to launch it by next year. And it's called The Circle, and it is on the Dyatlov Pass Incident, and we are going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass Incident, which I'm really excited about. But first of all, I want to share a video with you on The Circle, and he is trying to raise funds to get this movie produced. It costs a lot of money to do movies today. Anyway, so I'm going to share this video with you, and I hope you guys don't mind. So just watch it, please.
Hi, I'm Don Baker. Our team is finally ready to make the next big step in the journey, and we're asking for your help. Over the next few months, we're producing a very special sci-fi horror film called The Circle. The movie is based on real events that happened behind the Iron Curtain in the Russian mountains. It's one of the great unsolved mysteries of all time, where 9 college students died a brutal and horrible death. 9 students disappeared for 2 weeks. Their families didn't know where they went to. And finally, when authorities found them, they were discovered with fractured skulls, broken ribs, almost nude, and one girl had her tongue cut out. Incredibly, for 2 years after this incident, the Russian government kept the mountain off limit to everybody, even the families of the hikers. No one could go through the Dyatlov Pass, and we wondered why. The truth has been hidden for decades by the Russian government. Only recently did the producers of this film come across top secret documentation that reveals what really happened on that dark, cold night in the Ural Mountains. We want to reveal the truth. So we're making a movie, and that movie is called The Circle.
Murder in the Russian mountains. 9 students found nude with crushed skulls. 9 circles. 9 deaths. The Circle.
So welcome back, everybody. So you know what I'm going to do right now, I want to welcome Don to the show. Don, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Noreen. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you again, and to talk to the audience, and I really appreciate it. And you do such a terrific job with Paranormal Zone TV, and your work on YouTube is just really exceptional. So kudos to you and to your efforts. I know it takes a lot of work, and you're really on top of your game. So thank you for allowing me to participate in it.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm gonna clip this out, and I'm posting this on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. So Don, why did you want to, so tell us about, first, you know what, tell the viewers about yourself.
Of course. Well, you so eloquently outlined. I am the executive producer and screenwriter of The Circle, which is a paranormal thriller. And I've been, I'll give you the 20,000 foot view of my career, just to let the listeners know where I came from and how I got involved in this project. It was really kind of an interesting turn, because I didn't expect to be doing this kind of script. I have written comedies and children's shows. I wrote for Fox TV for a while. I've been in Hollywood for a long time, worked for different studios, and have been a TV commercial producer. I produced about over 500 television commercials, and have just, done a lot of marketing and things like that. So kind of, journalism degree, kind of straight, creative person, and never really thought I would be dealing in this kind of paranormal area, quite frankly. But a couple years ago, a good friend of mine and Kurt Cockrum, who is our co-executive producer on the film, brought this idea to us. And our good friend was born in Russia, of all places. And he has been in the film industry for years and years and years. And he brought this idea to us, and he said, my family still lives in Russia. They're in politics. They're in the diplomat corps there, and have been for many, many years. And this Dyatlov Pass Incident is a big, well-known mystery, well-known unsolved mystery in Russia. Of course, it's migrated throughout the whole world. But our cohort said that his family, because they're in politics in Russia, had access to a lot of inside information. And this event, this research, the investigation about these 9 horrible deaths have been unexplained, and much of the research has been suppressed. It's been hidden, it's been accidentally lost, it's been all kinds of things through the years by the Russian government. Well, we all know the Russian government isn't exactly the most friendly organization in the world, nor are they the most open. Well, I guess no government is really, but the Russians, they seem to have taken the lead on that one. So anyway, our friend brought us this story and said, I have documents that really are incredible. And so we spent about 2 years reviewing the case, reviewing the documents, going back, doing a lot of research, talking to people, and we just said, this story has to be told. So that's how I got into, doing a paranormal thriller. When I usually write comedy. So there you go.
I hope you get your funding for this project, because now I also understand, Don, that you've been researching this, but you've got information. You've got some newfound information to bring out more to this story, don't you? Didn't you?
Yes, you're right, Noreen. This is what hooked us, because we thought, okay, it's a great story. I mean, it's an interesting story. Historically, this is one of the great unsolved mysteries, right?
Yes.
9 young college students go hiking, go missing, and then 2 weeks later they're found, semi-nude with crushed skulls and broken ribs, and one poor girl had her tongue cut out. That sends chills up and down my spine, because that's not exactly, going on a picnic. I mean, that's some serious stuff. So it's one of those unsolved mysteries. So, but when we found out that, there really is a lot of research that hasn't been published, a lot has been suppressed, a lot of the initial investigation, a lot of the, the tents and the artifacts of the actual crime, if you will, the tragedy, have been lost or stolen or just hidden from the public for a long time. And that's why we said, well, we better try to expose some of this. Now we're going to do it in an entertaining way, because this is Hollywood and this is a film and this is where I come from. So we want it to be entertaining as heck, but at the same time, we're going to expose what we believe to be the truth about the incident.
Will you do it more? So it's going to be more like a movie instead of leaning toward a documentary.
Yeah, we feel that there have been enough documentaries about the incident. I've seen several of them on the History Channel, and there's nothing wrong with documentaries. They're great, but we're gonna Our story starts when a bunch of college students from the U.S. are invited into the Ural Mountains, into the same Dyatlov Pass, and they go through the same kind of events that the kids back then did, and with some very unexpected twists.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you researched the real story. Let's talk a little bit about, for those who have never seen, I did air a show a couple months ago on the Dyatlov Pass Incident, and I promised you guys that we would talk about the Dyatlov Pass Incident as well, and Don has also researched it. So let's give the viewers some information. Oh, and by the way, after this video goes into archives, there's going to be an annotation on the video for you to check out maincoonfilms.com. All the information about this documentary and the Kickstarter will also be on that website. So if you would go to that website and check it out, we'd all appreciate that. And also, in case Curtis Cockrum is watching tonight, hi Curtis, just in case. So the story is with the Dyatlov Pass. In January of 1959, nine students or graduates of the Ural Polytech Institute decided to go on this expedition. And they had started out with 10, and one of them left the group because of illness. Correct, Don?
Yes, you've got the story exactly right. There started to be 10, and ended up to be 9 because one turned back. I think he had severe strep throat, some kind of viral thing that wouldn't allow him to continue up the mountain. Although he did start up but had to return to an early base camp, and the other 9 went ahead without him.
Right. Then they were all experienced skiers, and they all had a long experience in ski tours and mountain expeditions. Now, all the pictures that I'm going to show you tonight, you viewers, these were all captured off of their film from their camera. Their cameras were found, and they were able to get the pictures off of their film. And the great thing about this incident is they had the insight to take all these pictures, diaries. Without this, Don, we wouldn't have any of this information about this incident.
You're right, and this was a different time, obviously. This was, when people kept diaries, and when people wrote letters, and when people recorded things, their life, rather than, Instagram and posting a picture of their lunch. they actually had to, put something down that was substantial. And so you're right, there are diaries that really count the journey all the way, document the journey all the way from every day. And so we pretty much know what they did, how they got there, and what they were doing at night, what they were feeling, what they were talking about. And but a few days into their trek up the mountain, things turned terribly sour.
Right. I believe the diaries and and actually the film as well. There was their last capture, and I have a picture of it. That was the last picture taken on the film, and this camera was found inside. I'll show them right now. It was found inside the tent, and supposedly this is the last picture. Have you seen that picture where it looks like a bunch of white orbs?
Yes, I have indeed. It's a very interesting picture, and it's hard to say what color that would be, of course, but I know that there were also notifications from nearby campers, nearby hikers, of seeing orbs that were moving around the sky about that time. So,
well, there was another group that were about 50 kilometers away from that group, and they had seen orange lights in the sky.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And I don't know what those orange lights were.
Well, of course, we don't know for sure, but they, it's pretty unusual to see orange lights hovering, close to the ground there, or not too high in the horizon. So, of course, speculation has been rampant that it was either some kind of military testing. I mean, that is one of the theories, that it's some kind of military testing with either mind control by the Russians or by the Americans, because we were doing a lot of flyovers during that time period, the Cold War, 1959. Or if it wasn't the military, it was quite possibly UFO intervention, or alien landings, and so that's also a very strong possibility, and that sort of plays into what we feel is the truth about this incident.
All right, so on January 31st, the group, I guess they took off about January 31st, and they arrived at the edge of the highland area to begin their climbing to the mountain. And the following, wait a minute. So the following day, on February 1st, the hikers started to move through the pass. And because of bad weather, I guess they decided to stop where they were, because they were actually, I think what happened was, because of the bad weather and the storm, they actually got lost. They were not on their course anymore. And
Yes, I believe that is absolutely the truth. They seem to be, a little bit out of their path, because, and also the fact that they were camping in, they weren't really camping in what would be considered the best areas. You would want to camp in some trees or some bushes or something like that, and they were sort of on the facing of the mountain, so, which is not a good place to be.
No. And so they decided to make camp. And what happened with that tent, with the 10th person that was supposed to be with their group, Dyatlov had told him that he expected this to take a lot longer. And so when they didn't get the any messages from the expedition, from the skiers, they weren't too worried at that time because of what Dyatlov had told. I think his name was Shrouded. And so they just let it pass. But then I believe the family were quite concerned, and they wanted the government or the police or somebody to step in and start searching for this group.
Yes, you have it exactly right. They really did what, obviously it's quite a hike across, some somewhat treacherous terrain, especially in the winter, cold and, difficult territory. But then again, these students, hikers, were very experienced. This is not like, someone going out and getting caught in, someone going out on a picnic and getting caught in a flash flood or a terrible snowfall. These students, they knew where they'd been up through many similar situations. They knew where they were going, and gosh, there's 9 of them. I mean, that's a pretty good group of talented young people. So
yeah, and I think too they probably felt safe because there were 9 of them, and they did pitch their tent where they had stopped. I think it was toward the edge of the forest, and they had pitched their tent to wait it out for the next day. But within that night, this was the night of February 1st?
Yes.
Something drastically happened to that group.
Yes, and of course the horror is that they cut themselves out of their tent. I'm sure many of our listeners and know this story, but for those who don't, it's worth recounting. The 9 students were safe in their tent, right, going to sleep, writing their diaries, probably drink. They just finished dinner, normal stuff, and here they are, awoken somehow by something, and they were forced to cut themselves out of the inside of their tent. Now that is a pretty odd thing to do when why don't you just use the flap? Why don't you untie the flap? Now, tents were different back then. You had to tie them, but not like a zipper and Velcro things that we have now.
Right.
But still, why would you cut yourself out of the tent? And why would you go, even more mysterious in this incredible story, is why would you go into the night without clothing or with just your underwear when the temperature is 20 degrees below zero? I mean, that's some really horrible circumstances.
Yeah. They must have been scared to death. Oh my God, wouldn't it be awesome if we could find out what actually happened? They said they left, they fled, all their belongings were outside of the tent, and they were either barefoot or had socks on. I think a couple of them may have had more clothing on them, but most of them were in their underwear. And now on February 26th, the camp was discovered, and of course the tent was abandoned, half torn down, and all their belongings were there. And a mile away, the first two bodies were found, and they were in their underwear. And you know what about this one though, Don? Okay, there were two of them, and they were by a large old cedar tree, and they had started a fire. Now, I don't know how they could have started a fire if they had no clothes. And it probably was snowing. Now, I don't understand that one.
You're right. It's totally odd. And I think you're referring to the two that tried to climb the tree.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
Exactly.
Which is unbelievable. Why are they climbing a tree? I mean, what are the... One of the theories, a couple of theories. One is that they're trying to get away from something. Now, what are you getting away from that you're going to climb a tree? That's odd.
Yes.
The other theory is that they were climbing the tree to try to see, to get some perspective on maybe what was happening in the tent, maybe what was happening in the camp, maybe... they were trying to get an eyeball on, was it safe to return? And in fact, a couple of the students did attempt to return. I think they were suffering from too severe frostbite and other things, hypothermia at that time. But they couldn't make it.
But Don, really, so... I had read this before, but I really didn't think about it. But now that we're talking, first of all, I don't see how in the world they could have started a fire. I don't understand that, although that's what they say, that they had tried to start a fire. The second, you're right, they climbed the tree, probably to get off the ground. I'm thinking to get off the ground, they must have been scared to death, because after they did the autopsy, their skin on their hands, their flesh was gone, and they had found their flesh on the bark of the tree. So that's telling me that they scrambled like hell up that tree.
Yes, boy, it must have been. If you can imagine the chaos and the terror. Dead of night, total black darkness, cold beyond, compare. You can't even imagine.
Okay. There's something else right there, just like what you said, in the black of darkness. How in the heck? You know darn well, if you go up in the woods or you go anywhere where there's no life, there's no lights, there's no homes, there's not even any street lights. You know that if you put your hand up in front of your face, you cannot see anything.
Right.
How could they have even seen the tree to be up against, and how could they have climbed that tree? That from right there to me does not make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could explain these oddities because they are so. I mean, why would you climb a tree? I don't even. The only thing I can think is to. I mean, the most substantial theory is to just when you're trying to get away from something. Now, what are you trying to get away from? I mean, could you be getting away from a bear? Yeah, you could. I guess that would make sense. That's always what I see in the movies. As a matter of fact, people climbing a tree. To get away from the bear, but there are no bear marks on anybody. There's no claw, scratches or bear bites, or the bear didn't eat anybody. I mean, there's nothing like that happening to these bodies, so that's not possible.
But how would they, if you can't see your hand in front of your face, what are they actually seeing then to be so scared?
You're right, unless perhaps there's something that has a light of its own. Right? I mean, something that's glowing, something that's has an inner force, an aura. Who knows exactly how it was perceived to them?
Exactly. And so, their bodies were there. I guess they fell off the tree. They must have been almost frozen and fell down, and I guess that's where their first two bodies. Those are the first two bodies that were found right by the tree. Yeah, I have a picture of that. So then, several hours later, 3 more bodies were found, and they were exposed on the mountain slope, and they said which was more baffling because they were found face down in a straight line between the forest and the tent, suggesting that was the positions of their bodies, suggesting that they were running for their lives. And 2 hand wounds on their hands and fists, suggesting they did have a struggle. What the hell were they struggling with?
Yeah, boy, isn't that so? Obviously, they're struggling. Something is chasing them. Something is pursuing them, and they are fleeing for their lives, because nobody would run from the shelter of a tent, right? It's 20 degrees below zero. You're not gonna, and your clothes, by the way, are in there with your coat and everything else.
Yeah. Now these hikers had some clothes on.
Yes, these did.
Yeah, they did. And then the 4 remaining hikers, they weren't found until 2 months later, and they had major chest fractures. Major. Not only that, Dobina, she was among them that were found. These are the 4 right here. She, her tongue was pulled out. Not only that was her tongue pulled out, but the autopsy revealed that she was alive when they pulled out her tongue because of this blood, all the blood that was in her stomach.
You're right, and can you imagine that? Because it's not as if, okay, I could say maybe you're losing your tongue. Let's say a bird came along. The next day after you're dead, or a wolf, or who knows what is up there, other animals that are carnivorous and could, maybe they like tongues, or they like eyeballs, or whatever they like, but this happened when she was alive. I mean, there is no, there was blood inside her stomach.
Right. So Don, doing your research, how can you pull out a tongue? I don't think us as a human, I don't think we could do that. I don't think I can go over to you and just pull your tongue out.
I certainly hope not.
But that would have to take a lot of force, wouldn't it?
It would take a lot of force, and it's not only that, but it's incredibly gruesome. I mean, what a way to this whole idea of taking someone's tongue. I mean, that's symbolic. A lot of this is really, really symbolic to me, and I think through history and through symbolism, cutting someone's tongue out is through history has been an act that you want to silence someone. It's not really killing them. I don't even know if you can die. Maybe you can die from having your tongue cut off. I guess you could maybe bleed to death, but it's more symbolic. So, what were they trying to do with this, girl's tongue? I mean, why did they do it to her? She was one of the most outspoken of the group.
Maybe she was screaming. Maybe she was screaming. Maybe she was saying horrible things to whoever what it was, and they didn't like it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Now, and the other ones that were found in this group, they had major skull damage. Now, they were found partially clothed, but they were in a ravine 4 feet under the snow. Okay. And what they had done was they had cut off cedar branches to put underneath them to keep away from the feel of the coldness of the snow. But again, Don, how could they have done this in pitch dark? How could they do that? Is it dark in Russia at that time of the year? Maybe I don't know anything about Russia.
I'm sure it is. Absolutely. So, even a better question, and you're absolutely right, not a better, but a question along the same line is, why don't they just go back to the tent? I mean, why are you cutting branches out? Why are you laying down in the snow? Why not go back to your house, if you will? Your tent, your protection.
Okay, you know why? If you can't see, how would they find their way back to their tent?
Well, you're right, they can't see, and maybe they know what was in that tent or what was around that tent.
And they probably wouldn't want to go back to that same scenario as why they left. Okay, now also in your investigation and in your research, I understand that some clothing, there was 2 pairs of pants and a sweater that were radioactive. Did you find that in your research?
Yes, it's absolutely the truth. And, this is so hard to explain. Why is it that it's radioactive? Now, there have been many theories, which some of them sound, good. Again, it could be nuclear testing or military testing in the area because, again, 1959 in Russia, this is definitely Cold War. This is a couple years before, the standoff between the U.S. and Russia, John Kennedy's and Khrushchev's standoff. And, there was a lot of military testing, a lot of scientific testing. We were doing all kinds of different, we meaning the U.S., were doing all kinds of different tests. And in fact, obviously during World War II, we ended up importing a lot of the German scientists who were also doing a lot of incredible human and really bizarre and horrific mind control and you name it. I mean, the Germans were really heavily into this, and a lot of those scientists ended up working for the Americans, and those people continued to do a lot of those testing all through the 50s and into the 60s. So, who knows, what was going on? Were they radioactive because we were doing some kind of, nuclear testing there, or the Russians, obviously this is Russia, so the Russians were right there doing the same thing. So that's one of the theories. Another one, of course, is some kind of mind control, maybe hallucinogenic drugs. Maybe these students were given something. One of the older students in the group actually did have military connections. So perhaps they were, he put something in their food, who knows, or maybe he was paid to do something. I mean, we just don't know. That's one of the, that is also one of the theories, that they were hallucinating. Now, when you're hallucinating, and mind control, you can imagine all kinds of things. You can imagine that you're in the middle of the desert and you're hot and you're going to take off your clothes and run down the sand. So, that is really one of the possibilities. Now, our theory, of course, relates strongly to that, and that's why we're trying to make this movie. That's the research that we've done indicates that there was a form of mind control from some either alien or jinn, which our listeners may be aware of. Jinn meaning the fallen angels, and we believe that there was some form of entry there in that region by these forces, and that there was some mind control here, and perhaps they, who knows what, they tricked the students into doing this, or the jinn have a long-standing history of enjoying chaos. They thrive on anger and fear. So maybe they cause these kinds of situations just for fun. I mean, who knows?
I saw a short documentary where this filmmaker interviewed a Mansi tribe woman. She was in her 60s at the time, but during this incident she was 5 years old, and they would go out into the woods, and hunt, and she would go with them, and they had seen a Yeti, a Russian Yeti. And so this Mansi woman believes that it was a Russian Yeti that got the 9 students. Now, some people believe it was an avalanche, but from what I understand, they said there really was no avalanche at that time. It couldn't have happened. Also, could this have been paranormal activity, aliens, like you said, a secret weapons test, the Russian Yeti, or the military cover-up? Those are some of the theories I've heard.
Yes, and they all have a certain cachet and a certain validity to them, because some of the causes and the effects here are would be similar under any of those scenarios. But I strongly believe, and this is what our film will reveal, and again, we're going to do it in an entertaining way, because it's always better to put a little sugar on. These are pretty gruesome stories, so we don't want to be too dark. It is This is Hollywood. We're making an entertaining film, but we also want to reveal the truth about this, and we want to honor the 9 students and their families, because if you can imagine having your kids, your teenagers, your 20-somethings out there in the woods, and the horror that they felt and the terror that they felt, and then to lose their lives on top of that, it's a tragic situation. And we have to remember that these were 9 young, healthy people, and they had families, and they had moms and dads, and those families still don't know to this day what happened to those kids.
I also read that the president of the Dyatlov Foundation in Russia, he was involved in the official investigation, and he believes that they were encountered by a huge unknown force. That's what he said. And also, the Soviet government set up a special unit in 1958. Do you know about this, called the Snowman Commission? And do you know about that one?
Yes, that's really an interesting point. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you want to tell them about it?
Well, I do know that that project is very relevant to this. And in fact, the students, there was a note in the tent left that, I can't remember the exact wording, I have it here somewhere, but it's something like, "Now we know there are snowmen."
Yes, exactly. I think it was written on a piece of cloth.
Yes, and guess what? We have in the circle, snowmen are in our screenplay and in our film. So we built that right in.
Oh,
so.
Awesome. That and the government, the U.S. government was involved in this too. It was a mission to capture a Yeti alive. And now what happened was this was all shut down. This was all shut down the day that the 9 students started off on their expedition.
Boy, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, yes. Another thing we didn't tell the viewers is another one of the hikers, one of his eyeballs was removed. Now, I don't understand why they would remove an eyeball.
That's a great question, and to me, that's another one of those symbolic things. It's like, you shouldn't be looking at me. You shouldn't see what you're going to see. So I'm going to have to take your eye out. It really, again, I think it has less to do with, people have said, well, the crows or the birds or, something came down. But no, look, the face wasn't pecked off. I mean, why you just remove an eyeball? It's not, the nose isn't missing. The rest of it's intact for the most part. Obviously, this is extreme weather and extreme conditions, and they didn't find them for several weeks, and some of them even later after that. So I think it's a symbolic thing. I mean, I really do. I think the tongue and the eye, I think they are messages.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought about that before. That's really great, because I never thought about that before. Interesting. Now, we didn't go over all of the injuries to these poor students, and they were all life-threatening injuries. They were all meant to cause fatal harm to these students. Their skull bones were exposed. One had a broken nose as well, crushed ribs, and there were internal injuries to their organs as well. Multiple fractures. One Nikolai, he had so much. There were so many fractures on one side of his skull that he became actually, they said he would have been coherent. He couldn't have even moved. He was probably a goner right at that time. And then again, with the eye missing, the tongue being pulled out, there was horrific injuries to these poor 9 students, which is absolutely. I could talk about this incident every day, because trying to put everything together, Dawn, it's so hard when you think about all these things, because you'll read it, you think about it, but then the next day, a couple of days later, you thought, well, how could that possibly have happened? Like, you couldn't see in the dark. How could you run? How could you possibly know where you're going? How could you climb a tree? How could you possibly start a fire? You have no clothes. Where are the matches? None of this. And then some of them were found in a 4-foot ditch. How in the heck can you dig out a 4-foot ditch in the dark? How?
How indeed.
So, okay, Dom, what do you know? What aren't you telling us? I know you know. Come on.
Well, look, I will say this. First off, we were very honored to be, and petrified too, to be quite frank, to be presented with this material from our sources. Now, that material has been hidden away for a long time. There are elements in Russia that, of course, I guess most governments are like this, but as we said, Russians are leading the pack here. They don't want all this information out, and So what we assembled was our theory based upon the evidence, some of it that we know about and some that has not been released. And what we have conjectured is that there is, there are portals. Now, I'm not going to give away I can't give away, my Kurt will, he'll have to pull my hair if I reveal the ending or the secret, because the film is, it's a film and it has a plot, and it's going to be really fun and entertaining. But I will tell you that this is all based around circles. Of course, the name of the film is Circles. Now, we see circles through history as portals. There are crop circles. There are entryways that we, alien entry, or whether it's demonic entry, or whether it's things like the jinn, which again are fallen angels. There are portals that come that allow these forces to enter our world, and there are crop circles and there are portals all over the world. However, there are also lots of them up in this area, in the Dyatlov Pass area, and so that's why we chose Circle as the title. And by the way, the devil's footprint, I'm sure we all know what that is. That is a semicircle. So, that sends chills up and down my spine to think that, the devil or fallen angels or UFOs, maybe they're all the same thing, but they're just, called a different, by different races and different religions and different times. They're called different things. But we do believe that the circle is very symbolic and very important. And by the way, 1959. There are 2 9s in that.
Exactly. Yes.
And when I'm looking at a 9, I see something. I see, what do you see? I see a circle at the top with a line at the bottom. A hook at the bottom. So this is 1959. Has 2 circles, 9 students, which is another circle there, and the number 9 is repeated throughout history as a mythological number. Has a lot of numerology. We can do a whole show on numerology of the number 9, I'm sure, and but 9, it's always 9, and it's always with a circle. So all this ties together, and we believe it's portals for either an alien or call it the jinn if you want, but some malicious force that has come in here and has controlled this situation and has ruined the lives of these poor 9 students.
Were you able to get some of the archives into the archives?
We did. We had photocopies of some of the stuff that I think has mysteriously disappeared, but it really hasn't disappeared. It's all there still.
Did you go to Russia by any chance?
No, I have not. I would love to go. I'm a little bit trepidatious about going there, because I don't, especially until we get this film made, I want to make sure that Russia is certainly a beautiful historical country, and I'd love to go for that romantic and historical aspects, but the political climate is not one that is, one very inviting right now.
Right, totally agree. So, in the movie, in the ending, is it your ending, what you think happened, or is this based on any research that you have done?
Well, perfectly good question. It is. Of course, I wrote it. We were going to create the ending, but the ending is based upon information that we obtained. So I don't want to say what the ending is, but the ending is based upon fact. Now, did we, in fact, in research, but did we embellish it and, put our own, a little bit of a spin on it? Of course. I mean, we have to fill in the missing, we have to connect the dots. But the dots are leading us in a certain direction already.
Oh my God. I can't wait. I can't wait to see this movie. Now, do you think this is going to go into the theaters? Is it going to hit a sci-fi channel? Is it going to hit cable? Where do you expect this to go?
Yes, we will be here. The overview on the movie is this: that we are going to start principal photography in January or February. We're waiting for the snows. A lot of this is outside, of course, outside shooting. So we need some real heavy snow. And then we have a full, plan. I come out of, Kurt and I both come out of, entertainment and distribution. So we will have theatrical release. I mean, I'm knocking on wood here. You never know. Yeah, it has to be a good movie. But we believe we will have theatrical release. We will also... one of the things we have is we own a web marketing company. So, that web marketing company is going to be doing distribution also online, which, a lot of film and things are going online now, like with Netflix and other things.
Right.
We also are hoping for TV distribution through either the Sci-Fi Channel or several other people that we're negotiating with right now.
Oh, that would be so awesome. Would you want to give them your website? Tell them your website?
Yes, well, our website is, our corporate website is maincoonfilms.com, and I'll spell that. It's Maine, like the cat, Maine, Maine, Coon, COON, films, FILMS, plural.com, maincoonfilms.com, and you can go there. You can find out more about us, but also, even more importantly, and this is, Noreen, I want to thank you so much again for your time, and I really appreciate it. If our listeners can support this project, that's the only way we're going to really make the film we want to make, and that's on Kickstarter.com. Kick, one word, kick, K-I-C-K, starter, STARTER.com, and then search in the search box, search The Circle, and then contribute, because there are some great rewards on there for contributing. If your budget is $5, you can contribute and get something great, or if it's $50 for a signed script, a couple $100 to have t-shirts and a download and a hat, or if you want to have dinner with the director or the producers, you can do that. Even if you want to be in the film, there are some great awards. Or if you want your company name in the film, like on a sign or on a menu, hey, you can do that too.
Wow.
So come out and help us back this project, and we would really appreciate it.
And I will put a link on the video itself. They can just click on that link. It'll take them right to your website.
Thank you.
Oh, Don, it was such a pleasure meeting you and talking with you. And I oh my gosh, I wish you the best of luck. And I hope the best for you and your crew and your team. And I hope you make it really big with this movie, because we are all anxious to see it. I know it's going to be fabulous.
Noreen, you are terrific, and you have a circle in your name. Several.
I did. Uh-oh. Thank you, Don.
Could they be portals? I guess.
Thank you so much, Don. My best wishes to you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, thank you, Don, so much for being on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I wish them nothing but the best. I hope to goodness that this movie gets produced. It takes a lot of money these days to do something like this, and even if you guys gave $5, $10, whatever you can to help them get this off. So thank you. Good night. I love you. I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Good night. I love you.